wintertime. I was looking for a new challenge, and at first I was thinking about doing a 5,000 meter in 1 day challenge and started working on that. Then Rouvy and GCN came out with their 3 hill hell challenge. The 3 climbs are the Stelvio, but from the Prado side, not the Borneo like it normally is, the Grossglockner, and Mount Ventoux, to be done in any order over the course of 3 months. I decided to go ahead and try doing it in 3 consecutive days. Of the 3, I decided to do the Grossglockner first. Reason being, it scares me the most. It's 22K, of which the last 2 are downhill. So it's really the entire climb at 20K. The biggest thing that scares me about the Grossglockner is the fact that so much of it is at 10% or greater. There's a 14.5 kilometer section of it that averages 9.9%, and that is just a drag. So I figured I'd knock that one out first. And we're off. Here we are at KN, and we've hit an 11% rise that'll last for a little bit. Here's a welcome quick recovery before the tool booth. Pretty good so far. Made it up to the toll booth. So now comes the hard part. 14.5K at almost 10%. For each of these climbs, I've interspersed some stills to help show off their beauty. Notice here that we're 11K in. It says we've got 9.7 to go, but it's really about 7.7 to go and 700 meters of climbing still. 5K to go, which means 3K to the top of us. And think that's where we're going, but the ride actually fakes you out and you go to the left instead of to the right up to the tower. Here's some stills for the final push up to the top of the mountain. And a loop around the overview and down to the finish line. Alright, Grossglockner completed. It was the beast and grind fest I expected, but I loved every minute of it. So today is day 2. Grossglockner's down, and I have the Stelvio up. This one is the longest of the 3 at 24K. It's, again, it's beyond category, and it's almost 1,800 meters of climbing. The good news is it doesn't have all those greater than 10% sections like the Grossglockner. The Stelvio has 2 sections. The first section, which averages about 7%, and then a 17-kilometer section that averages a little over 8%. So that is one long grind. And away we go. Unlike the Grossglockner, the Stelvio gives us a little bit of a warm-up before it starts kicking in hard. Not real long of a warm-up, but at least a little bit of a warm-up, which is very helpful for the legs. You can see the absolutely gorgeous views on the lower slopes of this climb with the trees and the high mountains in the background. It definitely inspires you. Here we can start to see some of the famous switchbacks, except these are not the Borneo switchbacks, these are the Prado switchbacks, but they're just as beautiful and just as hard. Similar to the other 2 ways up this climb, the switchbacks at the top are the hardest part of the climb, and they average over 8%. And we've made it. Oh my God, was that hard. You can definitely see why it's beyond category. Whew, I am beat. Okay, day 3 of the 3 Hill Hell Challenge. I can tell you that my legs are feeling the first 2 days, that's for sure. So today we've got Mount Ventoux, a monster in the middle of France. beyond category like they all are. This one's about 21K and almost 1,600 meters of climbing, and it's a beast. Looking at the profile, there's plenty of chunks of it that are somewhere around 10%. So that's going to be a real tax on the legs. After the first two, I can definitely understand what the beyond category means as far as their difficulty goes. Each one is an accomplishment in and of itself to be proud of. And we're off. Similar to the Stelvio, the organizers have us going up a side of the Ventoux that is not the typical one that you see on the TV. As such, I really wasn't sure what to expect from views or anything else on this climb. The Ventoux's known for its treeless, barren moonscape top. The trees last a lot longer on the way up from this side of the mountain. The Ventoux also fills out the organizers' trifecta of the finishes being the hardest part of the climb. From this side, you don't see the iconic weather tower until you're almost all the way to the top. And we're done. 3 down in 3 days. 5,000 meters of climbing. Whew. Definitely a big time accomplishment. Really feel good about being able to get all 3 of them done in 3 days. Ooh-wee, that was quite the challenge. I am so happy that I did it and was able to complete everything. And actually beat my expectations for total time to complete. So I'm feeling really good about it. All 3 hills definitely lived up to their monster climb and famous climb reputation. I can tell you personally that doing all 3, one right after another, 3 days, it not only really hit the legs, but it also hit my neuromuscular system. It's definitely very drained at this time, so I've got a few days of recovery runs that I need to do. So a few things that I learned while doing these 3 climbs. I really love the kicker climb. If you have a smart trainer that adds the ability to raise and lower the bike based upon the gradient, I highly recommend adding that feature. I live here in Florida, so there's no hills. So giving me that capability and how it hits the legs and the back differently is a huge benefit to my training. Another thing I learned is that these beyond category climbs, for me, for my capabilities, are about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours apiece. Make sure you have a lot more fluids available than you might think for a normal indoor ride. Just because of the lack of air circulation, it makes a huge difference. With these climbs, being as long as they are, and in general really, for any kind of climb, you hear about trying to get into your rhythm and everything. Getting into the rhythm is essential for any medium to longish climb so that you can pace yourself. That's part of, I think, what they mean by getting into a rhythm. That rhythm means going a little bit slower than you might think, especially at the start and the middle. Another thing that you'll hear a lot about is spinning up hills, and having a low cadence, or having a high cadence is great, but in many cases, especially with these hills, the normal human is not going to be able to spin a gear up these hills with the gradients that they're at. Unless you can do at least 4 watts a kilogram for your FTP, which most people can't, you're going to be spending a decent amount of time grinding on these things. So just expect that from not just a muscular, but a neuromuscular standpoint. So be prepared. All that being said, anybody can do one of these climbs. You just have to prepare for it, you have to train for it. If you haven't done any hills or any low cadence, you've got to do a little bit before that, or you're just going to be miserable. But anybody can do these climbs. You just have to go at it with the right mentality. I hope now you're inspired to do a famous climb. Good luck!